Prodigy, the subversive Star Trek. Today on number 281 of Trekland Tuesdays Live with me, Dr. Trek, Larry Nemecek, coming at you here from Portal 47, right through the heart of Trekland for some sanity, clarity, and the big picture in all things Star Trek. Hey, welcome back for another Tuesday, everybody. If you're watching us later, you're only going to be able to comment live in YouTube when you see us later on YouTube, but I invite you to come join us some Tuesday live when you can. What do I mean, Prodigy, the most subversive Star Trek? No, I don't mean Prodigy is trying to overthrow any planetary Earth government in 2022. That's not what I mean. What I mean is it's the most subversive of the Star Treks, I think, if nothing else, because it's not getting the respect that all the other Star Treks get, including its animated sibling, Lower Decks. How do I say that? Well, we can look at it in a little bit, but for one thing, the parent analytics streaming numbers that reflect online activity, if that's an accurate reflection, and it's as good as any, aren't quite there. And I imagine if we even had the key to the vault of all the numbers at Paramount Plus, we'd probably find that Prodigy was getting the smallest audience of all the Star Treks. I wonder if it's getting a smaller audience than any of the Legacy series even. And hey, what better time to talk about this? Congratulations to Prodigy as one of the first nominees for the brand new Emmy Award for Children's and Family Outstanding Animated Series. So yay, well deserved. Look, if you've known me very long, you know that I'm a big champion of the underdog. I would always prefer my Sooners to be an underdog. I will always root for McCoy and Scotty. I will always root for the Tellarites. Used to, the Andorians, they got star power. Thank you, Jeffrey Combs. No, I've always been a big root and I guess maybe that's why I'm a little attracted to Prodigy. Well, that and the ability to sit down and watch it with Cadet Alice when we can. That's awesome. But no, even week to week, I'm starting to see it's amazing not only what Prodigy is doing, but how a lot of the rest of the world isn't paying attention. I mean, that's what I mean by subversive. Here's the thing. I would almost say that Prodigy is still ramping up, but it's getting to the stage now here in this second half of the first season where they may be packing more plot and plot potential per half hour than anyone else. And I say that even with the manic pace, again, of sister series Lower Decks. And that's not a knock on Lower Decks. Lower Decks is very happy where it sits. I'm talking about some of the groundbreaking threads that are threading through Prodigy. And I think I always tell you to watch the socials of all the creators. And I think there's been hints out there once or twice from what some of the creators on Prodigy are doing, what Aaron Walke, what the Hageman brothers, Bill Wolkoff, what some folks are getting into. But I think they're relishing being the underdog as well. To wit, I was calling it the season 2 premiere for a couple of with Cadet Alice. And if you're not watching us, please go over and like and subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're having a lot of fun, and I'm very proud of my granddaughter. I think she's a smart cookie. And she amazes me sometimes with the things that come out of her mouth, as they say. Out of the mouths of babes, oft-time come gems. And sometimes, once or twice, she's caught me on something. So it's easy to do that on Prodigy because it's so disarming. It's not just for the kids, although it's perfect for them. It's a great entree into Star Trek, and that's what it's designed to do. But it's not meant to leave the parents behind. It's not even meant to be leaving behind the adults without kids. And there is no shame with that's what I'm here to tell you. Don't take it for granted and don't write it off. That's why I'm plugging the underdog. For example, the Janeway Chakotay. Where are the JCers? What? Where is this Janeway Chakotay plot going? And I don't think they're going to be back in a bathtub anytime soon, but come on, if you're longing to see them back together, this is your best on-screen thread to do it. It may even turn out to be such an exercise in not just reunion and nostalgia, but is there really an underground campaign to get a live action Janeway of some format going again? Wow. I mean, it could be in years hence that the biggest contribution Discovery made to the franchise, aside from representation, maybe launching Strange New Worlds. We'll have to see. We'll have to see. I have high expectations for Discovery's fifth season from a couple of rumblings I'm heard, so I'm really excited for it. It could yet again be a whole new different tone of series, but that's okay. Discovery, it'll be the chameleon of Star Trek's. But we're talking about Prodigy. I almost said Protostar. We're talking about Prodigy. There's that. If nothing else, the J Seers have something to watch and pay attention to. What is this super weapon fulfilling? It's almost like the promise of Picard's threat against the Borg with a nanovirus. Other times when it's cropped up, a computer virus, the one that attacked the Enterprise through Captain Varley's ship. Second season, Next Generation. I mean, we've had dalliances with a computer virus, and that's what the diviner, the bad guy, the bad dad, as we say on Cadet Alice, that's what the diviner had planned for his retribution revenge plot. And I got to say, I'm feeling more for all the criticism that the Burn plot took. The Burn was really enjoyable as a dramatic device for its implications and ramifications. It was a lot of fun to see how the Burn had kind of forced the Vulcans and Romulans together, how it had shown us a new angle on humans and the Sol system and Trill. I mean, revisiting a lot of that and then watching them come back together. The core reason, the alien kid that screamed at the wrong time in the wrong place, is always going to feel a little flimsy, if nothing else, because maybe that should have been a two-parter plot, not the whole season. But it wasn't really the whole plot of the whole season. And I'm saying that the ramifications and the way the Burn played out were a lot more entertaining than finding out about the Burn itself. I think most people would appreciate that. Just seeing Orions and Andorians running around was kind of a breath of fresh air, much less this whole new 800 years in the future, which it was married to, right? I guess that's what I'm saying. The new milieu was just as fascinating as the reason for it. Well, here we've got a chance to revisit the old super virus that's going to kill everybody. And one person's revenge, will the diviner come up to a level that rivals Khan? Is that possible with animation versus live action, with an icon versus something that was just developed 3 years ago? I'm not going crazy, but I'm saying, for all the revenge plots, Anorax, I'm looking at you, the vengeance plots, from Year of Hell, Voyager, of course. I don't know. But I'm saying that the way it's being threaded out might be the envy of all the modern series. Because it's getting more, we're adding in it's not just the kids versus the diviner. Now we've got real Janeway going to legitimately hunt the lost protostar with missing Chakotay, which is all wrapped up in the diviner's plot, which is involving time travel. Oh my gosh, Cadet Alice was right there with the time travel. He's pulling a Borg, trying to short circuit history to alter history. He's trying to short circuit. He's pulling a Xindi. Except the Xindi weren't really harmed. They were just power mad. They were just expansionist. It's their destiny to rewire normal space to live for them. But there's an expansionist plot there that's Xindi-esque. Let's go beat them before they have a chance to harm us. Even though the harm was on you guys, not on us, we think. But I think these layers of implication, both on the personal side, and oh my God, Dal and Gwen are just loaded. Life Support Live, we barely scratched the surface when Dr. and Ali were looking at this. The personal and we barely scratched the surface of what's going on for like Jaglom. And yes, we now know, spoilers, that Murph is a Meloidian slime word, which, boy, the award for the one-off piece of dialogue from a billion years ago into a living, breathing entity now, that award goes to Prodigy. And Aaron, you and your little, it's been a canon. It's a canon species that we've heard of before. Well, okay, seen before, heard of are two different things, because it was just it was a throw-off topic, a line drop. But okay, we got Murph, and we know Murph's going to molt or something. So that'll be interesting to watch. This reset also brought us back to the furthest expanse of the Federation toward the Delta Quadrant. That was amazing. We see the architecture. It's so cool. It reminds us of some of the canon stations before. Okay, that's fine. We get a Denobulan. Cool. A Denobulan who likes cosplaying Maquis. Apparently, the Maquis pips have been retconned to be provisional for all uses, though, because they're starting to pop up around. So fine. Maybe Janeway engineered that too, and Starfleet adopted it. It has been a few years. It's been 4, 5, 6 years. So we've got this Denobulan, which is funny, but he's not a boob. He's there pretty much. He's on the line between being bumbling bureaucrat, but also loves saying "Space, the Final Frontier," which was a cute moment with the kids to remind you. Barnes Frex, though, any relation to Barney Fife? I couldn't help wonder. I gotta ask the guys themselves. But yeah, good on him and Denobulan. What was cool was watching in what almost felt like a reset. This almost felt like, and I'm sure a 10-episode arc. The last episode 10 felt like it could have been the end of a series. They put the bad guy out to pasture, and they've got the run of the ship, and everything's hunky-dory. Aside from, that whole Gwen and her lapsy memory thing. But this starts off bang with a teaser in cinematic form, the way Insurrection did, but the way the JJ movies do, almost like an old school tag at the beginning in your red treed forest with the yellow natives, or the little guys. Started off with we just plunge into a teaser with a mission. We get all the exposition inside the aqua pod that they have. Where did that come from? Okay, I guess that vessel replicator can do anything. And we find out that they've been collecting brownie points to go back with their master plan of finding the Federation again. Cool. In hearkening back to Star Trek 4. Okay, fine. As Cadet Alice called them, the mermaid aliens was cool. But it's almost been like a reset because you get so much exposition. If you go back and listen to it, they're all repeating the basic setup. It's almost like the reworked second pilot of Firefly. It's almost like everything you need to know about the characters, you're not getting the colorfulness of the mystery unraveling as we learn about them through the first 10 episodes, but you're getting almost someone could sit down and watch this episode and get the backstory for the kids. Then again, for those who have been watching the 10 episodes, and we've been reading the press guides and the weekly, we know that Janklum's a Tellarite. It is a great reset to watch them go through the bioscanner and be told what they are, because the kids, it brings it home that the kids were all kidnapped, yanked away from parents or situations, and not even know who they are, and of course not be able to communicate without translators until the big breakout. So to see Jankum find out he's a Tellarite that we know, and we are almost forgetting that he didn't know he was, and then to go, oh, okay, Zero, okay, yes, they know about Medusans, fine, don't have to take him out of the bubble. We learn what Murph is there. Melanoid slime worm. Cool. Big mystery's over. Oh, but then again, now we've got the discovery of watching Murph and filling in a few factoids. And Brickar comes to it. First time a book species has been made canon on screen. I mean, she already was, but now it's really out there. And no big deal to existing canon is represented by Barney Fife, Barnes Frex. And then Gwen comes through. Fine, nobody knew. Because apparently the first contact that her dad is so upset about has still to come, which is part of the thing that's dawning on everybody. We saw the flashback basically right about the same time as Best of Both Worlds. The stardate worked out to the end of 67, or end of 67, beginning of 68. So there's Solum, her father's world, is fully populated and fully functioning and hasn't met, which again is the Xindi type plot that her father's trying to travel time and mess up the Federation, destroy it with this massive computer virus weapon, which you saw in full blast as it decimated this system. Spoilers. So it was expected that there had been no first contact yet. That was the diviner's plan, so the computer had no record of her. What was interesting was Dal's. We still do not know what species he is, little tailhead, colorful friend. But whatever it is, set off a trigger. I mean, my God, that was an Omicron particle type trigger. Go see Starfleet Command. He wasn't to be arrested. He was just ordered to report to Starfleet Command, which was an interesting wrinkle there. Nothing went off that opened up a secret directory for poor little Lieutenant J.G. Frex there. He wasn't given an Omega directive, nothing on that level, but it was still red alert level. But of course, he didn't have time to take it. Then we get this. Then we get to switch over. We finally hear Janeway's Dauntless crew talk. The voice of Commander Tysus, who's the Andorian first officer, David Diggs, and Jason Alexander. Yes, George Costanza, noted Trek fan, as seen in the think tank, and also the PR ceremony for the Borg ride back in the day at Star Trek Las Vegas, which there are pictures, there are tapes. But super nerd fan Jason Alexander, who you would never know by listening to him, is Dr. Noom, who's the Tellarite doctor. So subversive that we've got two speaking Tellarite roles. And will those two ever interact once Janeway interacts with the Protostar kids? Well, we'll see. We'll see. Us first-time Canon Point hunters will be looking for that. But kudos on Jason Alexander. He's totally pitched a low voice there for his Tellarite doctor, Dr. Noom. Had 2 or 3 lines. Both he and David finally had speaking lines, which is another subversive part of this. Look at the overlap audience. Jason Alexander, David Diggs, Broadway, and then Jamila from her influencer circle. Look at the potential. Now, you might say that's crass casting, but it could be very smart. If the whole point of Prodigy is to bring in new eyes, they don't all have to be kids, but they could be, you know, kids paying attention. So if you have the Hamilton circle and you have the Seinfeld circle from Jason Alexander and his Broadway underpinnings, and then Jamila, and she was doing publicity for the show. That doesn't hurt. Interesting to see what more builds up out of Janeway's crew. But most of all, the flashback scene, which wasn't even a flashback, it was a holodeck. It was a holotape. Her and Chakotay again. So yeah, Robert Beltran's out there voicing it. He's wearing everyone else has the future, which used to be the future fantasy badge, but now it's all these entities, which is a canon point. How did all these entities, how did Barash know the future badge for everybody wearing that future badge, as seen in the bent back, unused future time thread from the Elder Admiral Janeway's future at Endgame, the Voyager. There's going to be an interesting philosophical dynamic there about fake futures that may not be so fake. They may be, we're not visiting alternate futures, we're visiting adjacent futures and adjacent time streams, because we keep coming back across the comm badges that were from anyway. But she has a recording of that ceremony and that goodbye, which was interesting to watch. And Chakotay, yes, is wearing the badges that were replicated for the Protostar kids and for Holodeck Janeway. He's wearing that. So when Janeway does find the crunched badge that the diviner crunched from Gwen, from Dal, she knows it's the Protostar badge, not just that it's a comm badge. And she immediately, of course, thinks Chakotay. That's what she would think. The final touch here might be that not only are they chasing the kids with cross impressions of each other, but then they find the diviner. So yes, so John Noble is still going to be a part of the cast, voicing his character. Now, is he going to be memory adrift and innocently help them find the Protostar, or is he going to be very much in touch with his memories and use Janeway's good intentions, as the best villains do, as the most vengeance-seeking adversaries do, who all believe they're right, by the way, the best ones. No cardboard cutout villains here. Is he going to use Janeway and her pro-crew on her hunt for Chakotay to get the Protostar's weapon out? Oh my God. I mean, we've been talking here for 20 minutes about a kids show, with implications. We're bearing down. We're 5-6 years away from the synth attack on Mars. We're spoilers. The kids are finding the Borg this week, but that's the bottom line. Also, is they're rolling out all kinds of canon here. Not just that we know now what a melanoid slime worm looks like, or that we've got 2 Tellarites in the same cast. We've got Tysus as an Andorian. Okay, fine. Essentia is a Trill. That's Jamila's character. But we're going to find out that Chakotay was going to take the protostar and go re-explore the Delta Quadrant. So that whole concept about when does Starfleet get re-engaged has been answered. And how long has CR-721 been out there? It's not too far for the kids to hop over and find it. Is it beyond even the Delta Quadrant, Beta Quadrant boundary, or is it just this side of the Delta Quadrant in the Beta Quadrant? Got to look and see. Got to see what our mapping friends are doing there, or what everybody's intention was. Because this also located Tars Lamora in the Carina Nebula, which is a real astronomical event. It's big, 8,200 light years away, but now we even, as if they didn't already, and I know they did, they had Tars Lamora all plotted out. And I'm sure Dr. Aaron was in there helping everybody do it. There's lots of layers going on here, and not just for week to week, but long-term layers. And so I'm saying they're weaving a tapestry here of a streaming show, and maybe somehow it's easier to do that with a cartoon than it is live action. I don't know. And then thinking about going back through, one moment really struck me. The kids even had their insurrection moment as they leaped off and played anime characters and missed it. And yeah, and someone someone asked me the other day how lucky it was. Oh, I know it was. It was Cadet Alice. Alice noticed that how lucky it was that the transporter wouldn't work, but the tractor beam did. And I was like, God, what a smart kid. That totally got by me. Listening on the second listen, though, Janeway says it's not so much the control system as it is the physical emitters when the phasers are going bonkers with the computer virus. So yeah, the protostar's phaser emitters have been damaged. Oh, I'm sorry, the tractor emitters. You know, those long square, classically they look like a football field, only in light mint green, a pistachio light green. They look like yellowish green, gridirons on the hulls of ships. That the transporter emitters had been damaged, but apparently the tractor beam emitter was fine. It's a distinction, but nobody said anything about the tractor beam when they're litanying off all the damage caused by the station amok. But good on Alice for figuring that out. That's to say, though, you've got Baktok doing more advanced math in her head, figuring out the calculus to try to get them over. And then they do barely miss. Yay on Star Trek for not having it be a perfect hit, but even more heroic for Janeway to pull them in, as a smart command hologram training item would do. But after all that was said and done, and the premise for what's set up now, I think the morality police, the Star Trek ethos folks, I've got a question. I haven't sat down to start digging through, but it struck me at the moment, and then even more so when I went back. Now, yes, Barnes Frex might really be a Barney Fife, although I don't think he's that caricature. But I don't think Barney Fife was the caricature people made him out to be. And we're talking Andy Griffith, of course. But he did not share the escape pod from the station. Have we ever had a Starfleet person, even with people he suspected to be criminals, and of course he had no real proof aside from his world was crashing in around him, and he'd been a little alone for a while, apparently. Have we ever had a case? I'm not talking about Archer and the famous airlock incident, because those were aliens and people he had just met. And he did go a little bonkers in that scene, but I'm talking about people wearing a Starfleet uniform that had just been met with a guy who had suspicions. Was he the first time a Starfleet officer refused to allow people into an escape pod from an obviously fatal situation? I don't know. But what I do know is ethical questions like that, talking about Gwen being a clone of her dad, which got interesting for a moment if you've watched Cadet Alice. But she was winning. I was the one with the concern. She was just fine. But, we talk about the original animated series, TAS, injecting things like euthanasia and, and a Satan character, if that's indeed what he was. We talk about some of these subversive themes that the animated series inserted on Saturday morning, and I'm just going to say, not so much about controversial, but really tough things to inject here about kids and parents, or about kids accepting. Dal hugging Janeway, that was a moment. That was a moment for the character, but it was a moment for the show. It was a moment for holograms, the Doctor notwithstanding. I think this may be the most subversive Star Trek yet, as far as being the Star Trek you didn't expect to see or get, or reel you in. So yeah, I'll be watching. I hope you'll be watching. And if you haven't given Prodigy a shot, you ought to. It's gorgeous. I can't think. I mean, they pay so much attention to recreating even in 3D animation. It's become a beloved joke on Lower Decks just how amazingly they recreate canon objects, sometimes from the wrong century, but it's still cool. And Prodigy's doing the same thing, including giving you ocudograms that are easy to read intentionally at times. No, that's it. I'm sticking up for the underdog. The underdog is the cast and the creators, and the punch, the impact and you know what? Just like Voyager we intellectually understood it, or even DS9. DS9 and the portrayal of a black father and his son. Like Voyager portraying a woman in command surrounded by a lot of really competent women. Not that that had not happened before, but that total package and what it said for the STEM and STEAM abilities, and just to open, that took a while to take root. And Prodigy, in all of its various ways, it may take a while for the kids to grow up and have an impact from the show, but some of the social ethical cues that are going on here may take a while to root, but the diversity and acceptance and the ability to do whatever you can do, and Dal worrying about what he would be seen for when he finally gets to the Federation if he's not on file, and Janeway's reassurance that I'm going to stick up for the underdog. This show's got a lot of legs. It has far to go. They've committed 40 episodes, so I know in Star Trek terms, in modern terms, that's 20 hours. That's 2 seasons of a live action. But again, just like Lower Decks is machine gunning it at you manically. Prodigy, and that's awesome. Prodigy's style is layering it in until you suddenly wake up and realize how many layers have been layered in. Very subversive. Especially for a century when we're still trying to figure out how streaming storytelling looks. And even though it's got an animation twist and it's in half-hour formats, Prodigy is, it's not just a kid's show, gang. It's not just a kid's show. So I wanted to get that off my chest. Some of this has been because of focusing with Cadet Alice on Prodigy, watching it through her eyes, but also doing a rewatch for my own sanity. And wow, some of what's been picking up is amazing. So what do you think? Jump in the comments here. If you got a question, let me know. If I got something wrong, especially, of course, let me know. But I'd like to see what everybody thinks as we go along. Hey, I'd like to also let you know, speaking of the near future, if you have not done so yet, you want to sign up at my site. There's click-ins. It's coming in November, the 7th anniversary open house. You can get registered now. We haven't announced the mystery guest. We'll be doing that within the week. and setting the date for sure. But you can already be in line for not just our open house where we open the doors of Portal 47 as we do once a year to everybody, public, free of charge, but also we have a mini roundtable and Ask Dr. Trek. It's kind of like an open mic, and we do giveaways. I've been accumulating some DVDs and other goodies to give away. So you want to wait for that. Be watching LarryNemecek.com, and if you're not already, sign up. Yes, the newsletter is about to be reborn. If you're not on my news list, you want to be there. Otherwise, I do want to say thank you to our Patreons this week: Diana Hopkins, Robin Wilson, Lawrence Todd, Anne-Marie Siegel. Thank you for the Murph, Anne-Marie. Keith Rombach, Justin Porteous, Blaze K, Nathaniel Robinson, Andrew Przinski, and Pranakasha Productions. And then our live wires: Rusty Harrell, Hubbard Gunn Johnson, Robert McLean, Alan Hohensi, J.R. Poole, Byron Bailey, Dave Gregory, Gay Clevin Lundstrom, and Casey Shafsky. I say that Patreon, we are moving forward with some bits and pieces. It's simple. Patreon.com/Trekland Live. One of many Patreons you can help out with. Mine is very simple. It's a very simple subscription model. Thanks everybody for your support. $5 and $10 a month for a shout out. And yeah, really, access to our early Portal 47 interviews of Behind the Sage folks. We cap off the week saying it's Tuesday, so that also means it's been a new Trek Files is up. Sean Pillar is back to talk about his dad. I can't believe it's been 17 years since we lost Michael, and a lot of fandom didn't have the chance to know him up close and personal live. He's preserved in a lot of interviews and a lot of video interviews. And it's great to hear Sean talk about him as well as his own experience as a young writer budding up, finding his way with his stepdad, Michael. The Trek Files this week. The documents, of course, are at our Facebook page. You can find it, the audio, any place fine podcasts are caught. And one more reminder about our cruises coming up, especially for the our Trek tours, especially for the Trek cruise folks in LA next February. The boat leaves from LA this year, not Florida. So why not, coming or going, have a day tour, a special LA away tour, LA away days with us on Trekland Treks. And if that wets your whistle, in July will be our partnered with Geek Nation Tours big 10-day. We haven't done it since 2016. Our 10-day location sites tour in LA and San Francisco with a lot of celebrity guests. These are going to grow with the new year. But yeah, Armin, Tim, Mike, and Bobby Clark up there first. Check all of that out. Now, just to say first, if you're leaving us now because you're watching later on YouTube, please stay healthy. I'm getting my booster and my flu shot later this week. Stay woke. Check the sources. We're about to be flooded with all kinds of innocuous crap, not just the outrageous. Thank you, Elon. So check the sources, kids. And Trek well, everybody. We'll see you next week.